Look at this chart. It's not a normal bar chart. It's a bar chart that's chopped up into its separate units, where each block that you see can have its own information shown in a tooltip. So basically we have here the combination of a waffle chart and a tornado chart, where you have a binary outcome, wins versus losses, success versus failure, dead versus alive. Well, you get the idea. Now to set this up, we need a native visual and a few tips and tricks to get there. And in this video, I'm going to show you how. Now this chart is quite a special one and draws a lot of attention. However, I would only use it if there's real value in showing the separation of a bar into its separate units. Otherwise, go for a normal bar chart. Now also, it doesn't really work if you have hundreds or thousands of different units. Now here we have a perfect use case. For example, the court cases that are won versus lost for different law firm partners. So when I hover over one of these squares, you will see the tooltip with more information about that court case. All right, now how can you set this up? Well, you might think just a normal bar chart. However, that wouldn't get us there. Let me show you. If we would go for, let's say, a clustered bar chart, and let me just make this a little bit bigger, where I visualize the cases that are won in court and the cases that are lost, and then create a breakdown by partner. Now this visual is okay, especially if the emphasis is more on showing the number of cases won versus lost next to each other, then this could work well. However, if I really want to separate and see the distribution of cases won versus lost, well, then I would have to flip one of the bars to the other side. Makes more sense if that is the cases lost. And the way to do that is just to take the cases lost and put a minus sign in front of it. So I'm going to replace over here the cases lost count with the cases lost count negative. All right, that flips it. And now we just have to put the bars at the same level, which you can easily do by going to formatting, bars, and then over here, series all, layout. And then here we can say that they should overlap, and then put the overlap to 100%. And then you basically already have it. You just have to add data labels, change the colors. However, the tooltip is always for the entire bar. Now, of course, we could visualize all of the court cases in that tooltip. However, you don't emphasize the separate units, the separate court cases. And in certain cases, that could be important. And that's what our chart variation allows us to do. All right. However, here we cannot create these separate unit blocks. And for that, we need, well, a totally different visual as a starting point, which is going to be a matrix visual. So let me delete what we got over here and start with a matrix. Now I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And in this matrix, we're also going to have a breakdown by partner. So let's take the partner field, put it on rows. And here in the formatting, we don't need the title. And so let's turn that one off. And we're also not going to need the column subtotals and row subtotals. Okay, so now we need a breakdown by the number of court cases. Now to do that, we're going to create a little helper table. And over here, I've already set it up, which is quite simple. You just go to modeling, then say new table. And the formula that you can use is generate series. I want to have a series that goes from -15 to 15, and you can also say what the step size should be, let's say 1. Now, once you have done this, you will see a new table here in your data pane, helper number of cases. Now, that table contains one column. You can change the name over here. I change it to case, and you will see it has all of the values from -15 to 50. All right, now that column we can now use on columns for a matrix table. So I'm going to take that column, put it over here onto the matrix, and we get an error. However, this error will disappear as soon as you take a measure. For example, cases count. If I would put this one on values, then you see the error is gone. However, now the cases count measure returns all of the cases, so the total number of cases count for each partner. Okay, now this is not exactly what we want to have. We want to show bars. Now let's focus on Mr. Anderson. Let's go to the table view, select the table with all of the cases, put a filter on partner Anderson, and you will see he had 8 court cases. 2 were won, 4 were lost. The ones that were settled, we ignore. All right, so if we go back here to the report view, you see we have now these little squares, and we want to highlight these 4 that go to the left from 0, and in a different color we want to highlight 2 squares that go to the right from 0, these 2. Now, how can we do that? We need a measure that only returns a value for those squares, plus a little bit of conditional formatting. And that's basically it. All right, so let's do that. So I'm gonna go over here to this measure that I've already set up, case result count, to walk you through the logic. Now you see, first of all, we need to figure out what square are we actually looking at, which we store in a variable called x. Now let me return that. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to our matrix visual. Instead of cases count, I'm going to use that new measure, case result count. Now you see, x just returns that number that we have here at the top, the cases count. All right, now let's go back. So x basically stores which column we are looking at. Then we also need to know how many cases did this partner actually win or lose. Those are the next two variables, won and lost, which just do a distinct count on the case ID. All right, and then we have the partner name over here. Now you can also use a selected value function instead of max. However, that wouldn't make a difference in the filter context. So let's continue then with returning the right values, which we do over here using a switch function. Now here we have a few conditions that we want to check for. If x, the column number that we're looking at, is below 0, so we are in the lost direction, right? And x, the number, column number that we're looking at, is equal to or bigger than the court cases that were lost for that partner, negative, and so that's why the minus is there. Then we want to return an L for lost, and otherwise we want to check the next condition. If we're on the right-hand side of 0 in the positive value, so x bigger than 0, and x is equal to or lower than the court cases that were won for that partner, then we want to return a W, okay? Now, let's comment this out, and let's see what this returns. Let's take the variable result and paste it in there after the return statement. Now you see, we have a bunch of L's and losses. For Anderson, we have 4 L's to the left of 0s, and then we have 2 W's that go to the right of 0. But 0 actually disappeared. Now there, I want to have the partner name. Now here, I want to actually show the whole range from -15 to 15. And to do that, we just have to go here to columns, right-click on case, and then show items with no data. And now here in the middle, we have space to put the partner names. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that measure. You see the next thing is over here to check if x is equal to 0. If we are in that column, then I want to return the partner name. All right, now let's see how that would look like. Whoops, I forgot to take out that comma. And you see, now the partner names are nicely in the middle to create that tornado effect. Now, then here to the right of it, we still want to visualize also a number, a data label. Now, to do that, we have these two lines where we basically check the number of court cases that were won or lost, go one more to the right or one more to the left if we're looking at the lost cases, and then we want to return the number lost or won. Now, we want to display that nicely, and therefore I wrap that inside of a format function. And that's the whole idea. All right, now that already goes in the right direction and it's basically the core of the whole solution, but the next thing really makes it more visually nice, and that is conditional formatting. So let's go here to format, cell elements, and now we're going to apply a little bit of background color. So let's turn this on. All right, now here I want to set up a rule, and this rule needs to be based on the case result count. Now if it's equal to loss, then I want to have a red color. And otherwise, if it's a W, then I want to have a green color. All right, now I want to have exactly the same green as I have over there. So let's check out which green color that actually is. I'm going to select it, click here on the drop down, see over here, more colors. All right, and copy it from here. Now, then we can go back to the formatting options, click on the FX button, and now I'm just going to update that color green. Perfect. You see, it nicely matches now the color that we have there in the title. All right, now what about the W's and L's? I don't really want to show them, so therefore let's go back and apply also conditional formatting to the font color. And this one is going to be exactly the same. So we have lost cases and won cases. Here we have a red color. Here we have that green color from before. All right, now we are pretty close to the end result already. Now, if we go here to the grid and then turn on the horizontal grid lines and the vertical grid lines, Now you see the waffle effect, and here we can then change the color to white, play around with the width, and the same thing for the vertical grid lines. Also here, and we can play around with the thickness of these lines, and then we also have to make the chart a little bit bigger so that everything fits. Okay, now if you think I want these squares to be a little bit smaller, then you can go over here to values, play around with the value formatting, make the font a little bit smaller, for example. All right. Now, of course, you can also individually resize them, but let's keep it as it is. And of course, we need to get rid of the headers. Now, to get rid of the headers, let's start with the ones that are here on rows on the left-hand side. We have to go to row headers. And the problem is, if I would just adjust it, then you see everything goes down. Okay, now this is not really what I want to have. So therefore, you need to turn text wrap off for the row headers, which helps already a little bit. But you see, we still have a problem there in the column headers. So let's go here to column headers and do exactly the same. And this is what I want, because now you can just make it disappear by shifting it all the way to the left. And here for the column headers, unfortunately, you cannot do exactly the same. However, what you can do is you go to column headers and you just choose the same text color as the background. Okay, we now have to go here to grid, and then we have options. And actually it's here in the border where we have column header, bottom, and we can turn off that horizontal line. Okay, so now we are pretty close to that end result that we are looking for. Now, maybe also nice to have these names centered in the middle. So if we now go back and then choose specific column, then here for the case result count, we can put the alignment to the center. You see, looks much better. And of course, we need to resize it a little bit so that everything nicely fits. Okay. Building really good Power BI report isn't about simple tricks or making things look pretty. It's about knowing exactly what needs to go in your Power BI report and how to best visualize it. And of course, having the technical skills to do so. Now, my team and I have helped hundreds of companies across all different kinds of industries build effective Power BI reporting solutions. Now, if you want to learn all of our processes, frameworks, and get our templates of how we do it, then check out our upcoming Power BI design transformation over here. I hope to see you there. Let's go back to the video. All right, so the chart is already how we want it to look like. However, the tooltips are also important because when we hover over one of these squares, we of course want to see more information about a certain case that it represents. Now, to do that is actually quite tricky. Let me show you. Over here, we first of all need to create a tooltip sheet. So I've already done that. You see, over here, I created a table, and on that table, we have two measures. One measure that returns the case ID and one that returns the client. Now, what is actually the tricky part is to return a case ID and a client, because if you look at a data model, there's no connection between a little helper table with the number of cases that creates the breakdown and our main table with all of the case information. Now, if we go to that table as the cases, where we have all of the court cases for all of the partners, now here we still have that filter on Mr. Anderson. And you see, I created a new column, case sequence, where we have a unique sequence series for the court cases of each partner. Now, for Mr. Anderson, we go from -4, because remember, we have 4 cases lost, to +4. Now, the 2 that were settled, we ignore. Okay, so if I get rid of that filter for Mr. Anderson, or maybe we add 2 partners, then you will see when I sort by partner that for Mr. Jan, we do the same, and for Davis, we also do the same. Now let's then also have a quick look at the DAX code for that calculated column. So over here, I select case sequence, open up the formula bar. Looks complex on first sight. However, what is going on is that we first store the partner name, the filing date, the case ID, and what the outcome is lost in separate variables. And then the magic happens. We count the number of rows of a filtered table where we contain only those cases for the current partner on that row. And in the cases table, we filter that further for only those cases up to the filing date on that row or before. Now, and of those cases, with a few extra conditions, we do a row count. And that's it. That then generates a unique sequence ID for the court cases by each partner. Okay, now how does that calculated column help us in the measures for our tooltip? Let me show you. Let's go back to the report view and select one of these measures, for example, for the client. Now we can return any descriptive information from our main table that is disconnected from our helper table by just saying selected value client name or max or min, doesn't really matter. And then we use a calculate to apply a filter to that calculation where that case sequence number, that calculated column, is equal to whatever column we are looking at, whatever that case number value is that we have there at the top, which we made white, these column headers, okay? And in this way, we can have information that's contextual to a certain block that we are looking at. That's it. That's the whole idea. Now, of course, that tooltip still needs a little bit more love, but this is the core idea of how you can return descriptive information from that table that's disconnected from our output table. All right. Now, and this is how we can set up our waffle tornado chart, or however you want to call it. Now, do you like it? Do you see a use case for it? Maybe you have some more ideas that build further on it. Let me know in the comment section below. If you want to check out more videos like this, then see these two over here. If you want to learn how I build my Power BI reports on consulting projects from beginning to end, learn all of my tips and tricks, then check out the design transformation program over here. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.